Good morning, everyone. I'm Lucy Sharma, part of the Corporate and Investor Access team, which organises differentiated events here. Just wanted to welcome you all to Bloomberg and this opportunity of hearing from Goodluck Jonathan on his current views. Also, Bloomberg would like to thank Invest Africa for the opportunity to work together on these events. I'm going to pass you over to Mark Simmons now, part of the Invest Africa board and former minister responsible for Africa. If you do need Wi-Fi, it's on the back of your passes, just there's a code there. Thank you.
Lucy, thank you very much indeed. And could I begin by thanking Bloomberg for hosting us here this morning? And could I offer a personal warm welcome to His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan and his team. So you're very welcome back in London. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Simmons. I was the UK Minister for Africa, and I first came across His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan in the United Nations General Assembly in September 2012, when we were all wrestling with the challenge that was taking place in Mali at the time, and His Excellency played a very significant role regionally in resolving that. I also, since ministerial office, have been delighted to chair the advisory board of Invest Africa, which was founded and very ably led by Rob Hertzhoff, who I'm delighted to say is as ever present and here this morning. For those of you who don't know about Invest Africa, it is a global investment platform with 350 plus members. It is headquartered in London, but has a global reach with chapters in New York, Cape Town, Dubai and Switzerland, but it has members all over the world. It is not just a networking organisation. It has serious connectivity, opportunities for risk sharing and deal making, as well as introductions to senior African government ministers. And behind that, it is supported by Africa Capital Investments, which gives Invest Africa a transaction capability and ability. And if you're not a member of Invest Africa, you should be. It holds regular events in London, New York, Dubai and Geneva. It also facilitates investor visits to look at real investment opportunities in Africa. Recent locations for visits have included Ghana, Congo, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and of course, Nigeria. And future visits later this year include Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Kenya. Your Excellency, the fact that both you and I are here this morning shows that A, you can boil cabbage twice, but B, there is life after political office. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is a hugely important country. Not only is it the most populous country in Africa, it is the largest economy in Africa. The state of Lagos alone has a larger economy than Ghana and Kenya combined. The United Kingdom is the largest investor in Nigeria. And there is a huge and amazing amount of entrepreneurial flair and ambition in the Nigerian population. And just to give you a feel of the scale of Nigeria, today alone, 18,000 babies will be born, more than in the whole of Western Europe. When I spoke alongside His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan at the celebration of Nigeria's 100th birthday, I spoke both of the youth, energy and diversity of Africa and Nigeria, but also of the importance of prosperity, stability and democracy, and how leaders should be judged by the outcomes as Nigerians and other Africans with a smartphone in one hand and Twitter at their fingertips expect nothing else. Your Excellency, not only did you preside over largely free and fair elections, you presided over peaceful transition of power with huge dignity. You are a democratic role model for Africa, an exemplar, and I believe you have a significant role to play across the African continent to embed democracy. If it can happen in Nigeria, there is no excuse why you can't have free, fair elections and a peaceful transition of power in anywhere on the African continent. Your Excellency, not only are you very welcome here this morning, we're very keen and enthusiastic to hear what you have to say. So please give a warm welcome to His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you for that brilliant introduction. Listening to you, it's like maybe my script, I copied from you, or probably you picked from my script, and you already said it all. All what I want to say is maybe hearing a different intonation, but the message has already been presented. I have to appreciate all of you who are here this morning for this presentation, and thank the Invest Africa, Bloomberg, my Senator Ben Bruce, and my good friend for giving me this opportunity to interact with you this morning. Since leaving office 1 year and 1 week ago, I've had the luxury of time to be able to reflect on the future of my great country, Nigeria. So today, it's not about my personal memories or litany of what-ifs. No. Today, I would like to share with you what I believe is the key learning from my experiences from the future of democracy, not only in Nigeria, but also across the entire continent of Africa. I said before the last election that my political ambition was not worth the blood of one single Nigerian. I was true to my word when on March 16, 2015, just after the election, when the results were still being collated by the Independent National Electoral Commission, I called my opponent then, my president now, Muhammadu Buhari, to concede in order to avoid any conflict and ensure a peaceful transition of power. This was without precedent in my country, and I'm proud that it achieved my goal of no conflict arising from the result of the election. Some may think it is ironic that perhaps my proudest achievement was not winning the 2015 presidential election. By being the first elected Nigerian leader to willingly hand over power via the ballot box to the opposition party without contesting the results outcome, I proved to the ordinary man or woman in the country that I was his or her equal, that his or her vote was equal to mine, and that democracy is the government by the will of the people. And Nigeria, and indeed Africa, is ripe for democracy. It is my sincerest wish that democracy is being consolidated in the continent of Africa, and it will even get better. For it has always been my consistent desire to help consolidate peace and cultivate democracy in Nigeria and across the continent. In fact, it was the key foreign policy objective of my administration when we were able to help broker peace and restore democracy, just like he said, in Niger, in Mali, in Guinea, Bissau, and in Côte d'Ivoire. In Niger, the first challenge that confronted ECOWAS, of course, then I was the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government in 2010, was the military intervention there. We were able to resolve it through sheer determination and prudent consultations, which paved the way for the country's return to constitutional rule and democracy today. In Mali, as the co-mediator of the effort to return the nation to democracy after a surprising military takeover, I was the only sitting president to visit Mali and meet all the stakeholders in the early and difficult times of that crisis. I ensured that Nigeria played the leading role in all the negotiations coordinated by the ECOWAS. Our efforts produced a political timetable for the holding of democratic elections. I was happy that our work led to the historic peace and reconciliation agreement signed in Bamako on 15th of May 2015, which I was privileged to witness. In Guinea-Bissau, a nation known for its long history of political crisis, as leaders of ECOWAS then, we worked hard to bring about peace by building international consensus around a transition arrangement. This led to the full restoration of constitutional order in the country. After leading the negotiations that produced an interim government, Nigeria provided both financial and logistics support, making it possible for a successful election to hold. The process produced a democratic government that is currently running the country. In Côte d'Ivoire, in 2010, of course, that is the time I just took over as the chair of ECOWAS, Authority of Heads of State and Government. I was actually still an acting president then. So under my leadership, we demonstrated commitment to enduring democracy by standing firm behind the winner of the presidential election. The winner, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, assumed his rightful place as president of Côte d'Ivoire and went ahead to provide quality leadership not only to his own country, but also to ECOWAS as the chair. As the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a key actor in ECOWAS, we were also able to encourage peaceful elections in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Togo. Moreover, today the focus of my energies is to uphold democratic principles, promote peaceful political transitions, and support citizens and entrepreneurship and intra-African trade. These are precisely the objectives of the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation. We will achieve this by working with African governments, the private sector, civil society, and other friends of Africa to galvanize action towards improving our societies and making a change in the lives of the ordinary people in our various countries. And I'm sure that some of you here will be a part of that team to help us rebuild Africa. We'll work for good governance by promoting credible and transparent elections, as well as peaceful power transfers. I have no doubt that this is the basic requirement we need for strengthening our institutions and enthroning stability. Our interest in youth and women entrepreneurship is driven by the urgent need to create jobs for Africa's teeming young population. To this end, my administration, when I was in office, championed various initiatives and programs, including the popular Youth Enterprises with Innovation, acronym YOWIN, which encourages young people to go into businesses of their own and create jobs for their peers, and the Agropreneurs program, which encourages young people to go into mechanized agriculture as opposed to the subsistence farming that we are known for. Beyond the job creation, Nigeria, like other developing countries, faced the challenges of corruption, which is a stumbling block to the development of nations. I think it is important to let you know my administration took many steps to curtail this scourge in the areas of finance generally, in the areas of agriculture, especially in subsidies, and the petroleum sectors in the area of subsidies for hydrocarbons. But I don't want to bore you with details about this now. Let me just use the fertilizer example as just one. Through the use of mobile phones, we were able to provide e-wallets to farmers, which grew the percentage of registered farmers receiving subsidy from 11% before we introduced the e-wallet to 94%. And by doing that, we saved billions of naira that federal government and state governments used to put into fertilizer subsidies, but only 11% of our farmers get the subsidies. The rest goes into private pockets. Through our agricultural transformation agenda, we greatly boosted food production and saved almost ₦1 trillion on food imports. This one initiative had the benefit of improving food security, creating more jobs, and reducing inflation to the lowest level in over 5 years in the country. Our ambition was to sanitize the corruption in the petroleum subsidy by completely deregulating the sector. However, our efforts were thwarted and frustrated by unhealthy political resistance. So we couldn't succeed in that deregulation, supposed to commence 1st January 2012. If we have done that, the country would have been a little more stable financially. Consolidating democracy and effective war against graft should be the collective responsibility of all citizens of a nation. I would like to emphasize my ongoing commitment to good governance, effective stewardship, and transparency. For Nigeria to further develop and progress, we need peace, freedom, and unity. These values need to be deeply, strongly, and irreversibly entrenched in Nigeria for all times. For this to happen, it is imperative that both the executive and legislative arms of government institute a Bill of Rights. A Bill of Rights that will end discrimination and tribalism and promote equality, enabling everyone to work towards the common goal for the development of the nation. A Bill of Rights, which, like the British Magna Carta some 800 years ago, enshrined the principle of habeas corpus so that no person is deprived of his liberty without a trial of his peers. A Bill of Rights like that introduced by America's founding fathers, which stated, the people shall not be deprived or abridged of their right to speak, to write, or to publish their sentiments, and the freedom of the press as one of the great bulwarks of liberty shall be inviolable. There is a phrase from Cicero going back to the ancient Rome, which is most of you know about it. Civis Romanus sum, meaning I am a Roman citizen. But it means much more than that. It meant that every Roman was entitled to all of the rights and protections of a citizen in Rome. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor. Or even a prisoner. You were still a citizen of Rome and protected by the state. Wouldn't it be good for us to aspire to a Nigeria where we too could apply that same principle? Civis Nigerianus sum. Each of us could say, I am a citizen of Nigeria. We will be able to look beyond where each of us come from and look past our tribal origins. We will be able to evaluate each other on our merits rather than our religion or region. We will be free to think or do as we wish, as long as we observe the laws of the land, without fear that the land would withhold our rights under the law. What would it mean to be able to declare, I am a Nigerian citizen? You will be judged on your own merits, not your tribe. You will have access to education that can help you succeed on whatever you choose to do. You will be part of a proud culture, one that others want to invest in. You will be safe in knowing that society judges you by your successes and failures rather than your place of origin. You will be equal before the law, and your protection is enshrined in the laws of the country. You will be an asset and a valued member of your country, one who is worth investing in, who can return that investment in tenfold within your lifetime. Ultimately, it means that you will be an ambassador for Nigeria, and you will be able to proudly go around this world and say, I am a citizen of Nigeria. Isn't it true that we are all citizens of a proud Nigeria, home to great civilizations such as the Nok and the Boku, which date back over 4,000 years? We are one of the oldest cultures in the world. We are a civilization that had faced challenges, fought wars, and reformed ourselves and our systems. We have always prevailed through difficult times. We're a civilization that now stands at a crossroad, a key time when we must make a decision to move forward or go back. It is my belief that no matter what location, no matter what faction, no matter what tribe, each one of us can come together as citizens of the future Nigeria. It was the American Green Party politician, Ralph Nader, who said, there can be no daily democracy without a daily citizenship. The first transformation must be a shift in our mindset. We have to make the decision to make the rights of our people our priority when making government or investment decisions. Rather than spending money on resources that will run out, we should be investing it in people who are the key constant elements in the socio-economic transformation of society. Nigeria is projected to have a population that will surpass that of the United States of America by the year 2050. But if we have not invested in our people, then we'll not be ready for that situation. Our money must go towards providing education for all, because we know that once our citizens are educated, they have futures. Those futures lead to safer cities, stable economies, and more businesses. When a young person does not have access to education, their future is jeopardized, and statistics show that they may be prone to anti-social criminal activities. I am proud of the fact that my administration established a federal university in every one of the 12 states that did not previously have them. Now, for the first time in our country's history, every state has a university established by the federal government. Despite it not being the responsibility of the federal government to develop primary and secondary schools, we build hundreds of these schools across Nigeria to encourage education. Yet, we need to build on these achievements by changing our mindset to investing in the resources above the ground rather than below the ground. Once we invest in our citizens, it will be our time to confidently enter the international stage. Each one of us will be able to go to any nation and proudly proclaim, I am a citizen of Nigeria. When we have a good mindset, we must also strive for equality. No investment in our people is going to pay off if we are unequal. One area some of the international community disagreed with me was that while I was in office, I signed into law a bill that discriminates against a segment of our population. This private member bill was put forward in the context of polls that showed 98% of Nigerians did not think same-sex marriage should be accepted by our society. This was the highest percentage of any country surveyed. The bill was passed by 100% of my country's National Assembly, that is both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Therefore, as a democratic leader with deep respect for the rule of law, I had to put my seal of approval on it. However, in the light of deepening debates for all Nigerians and other citizens of the world to be treated equally and without discrimination, and with the clear knowledge that the issue of sexual orientation is still evolving, the nation may, at the appropriate time, revisit the law. When it comes to equality, we must all have the same rights as Nigerian citizens. Former United States Congressman Charles Rangel noticed the same thing when talking about America, and he said, full participation in government and society has been a basic right of the country, symbolizing the full citizenship and equal protection of all. Equality will promote meritocracy, growth, and security. Tribalism, regionalism, and religious intolerance should never be accepted in the country. Within the Nigerian Federation, anyone, regardless of their home state, should be treated equally and have full protection under federal law. That is the only way that all Nigerians can be at home in any part of the country and proudly say, I am a Nigerian citizen. That is the only way we can eradicate tribalism, regionalism, and religious intolerance before they destroy our beloved nation. The Constitution recognizes everyone born by Nigerian parents as a citizen. We must go the next step and accept all Nigerians residing in any part of the country as equal citizens. Our new Bill of Rights must therefore amend our Constitution to criminalize discrimination of Nigerian citizens residing in any part of the country based on their place of origin. Indigents and residents must pay the same amount of school fees and social services all over the country. I ask the question that Eric Liu asked. Next time someone uses denial of citizenship as a weapon or brandishes the special status conferred upon him by the accident of birth, ask the person this question: what have you done lately to end that? Every Nigerian must feel at home in any part of Nigeria. It is the only way that each of us will be able to say, civis Nigerianos sum. As our country increases in equality, its cultural value will increase too. When we increase the cultural value of Nigeria and show it to the world, not only will people spend their business dollars in our country, but their vocation dollars too. You have to buy into the culture of a country before you decide to visit or invest. It will become a self-fulfilling prophecy for our beloved nation. As we invest in the equality of our people and strive to make ourselves more equal, the world will take notice of that. As our image rises in the eyes of others, we will become even prouder of our national culture. This will repeat and repeat in a positive feedback loop where both parts feed each other and grow as a result. Before I conclude, let me ask you this. Which Nigeria do we as citizens want? An equal or unequal Nigeria? An educated or uneducated Nigeria? One Nigeria or many Nigerias? We all know the answers to these questions. Hence, my call for a bill of rights based on our shared vision for a future Nigeria, which is a Nigeria where you are judged on your merits and not your origins. A Nigeria where you can get the education you want and the future you choose. A Nigeria whose government serves the people and is not above the law. A Nigeria whose government invests in the resources above the ground and not just the resources below. A place where we all work together rather than allow ourselves to be divided by tribalistic tendencies and prejudice. Nothing better sums up this vision for Nigeria than our national anthem, which sounds as good in prose as it does in song. Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call, obey, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity. I'll leave you with this. I am a patriot. I am so very proud of my country, and I believe it is only right and proper for me and every Nigerian to be able to proudly proclaim in our villages, in our towns, in our cities, in our country, and anywhere in the world, civis Nigerianos sum. I am a citizen of Nigeria. I thank you all.
Beautifully done, beautifully spoken. So, yeah, we do Q&A now. So, if you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Your Excellency, for an inspirational presentation. We've got a little bit of time now to do a Q&A, and His Excellency has kindly offered to answer a few questions. And what I'm going to do is, so you can have a sit down for 2 minutes, is take 3 or 4 questions from the audience, collate them, and let His Excellency come up and talk to those questions. But I'm going to prepare him for the first one, which is what I'd like to ask on behalf of the investors in the room. You know, is it a good time to invest in Nigeria now, Excellency? My first question would be, is it a good time now to invest in Nigeria? But while I give him a chance to have a think about that, I'm sure he knows already the answer. Are there any questions in the audience? Senator.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is not a question, mine is a contribution. Yeah?
Contribution.
Mr. President, mine is not a question, mine is a contribution. As your senator, I was deeply moved by your comments, and I want to say, as soon as I go back, I will propose a Bill of Rights for all Nigerians. We deserve it. This is the right time for it. And I will ask all of you here today to ask your senators and House of Rep members to support my bill. Thank you very much.
My name is Nigerian, and one who owes President Goodluck Jonathan an apology. Oh, sorry. Thanks very much. My name is Olaito Eyewawi. I'm a solicitor in London with dual qualifications in Nigeria as well. I do owe President Goodluck Jonathan an apology for the reason that I've come to see that Nigeria's problem transcends one president. And the Nigerian people have got to really like what is good enough to decide on nationhood. It appears we don't really want a country. So my question to the president is, as far as you know, why is it difficult for Nigerians to really decide on having a country and living it in real terms, not just in falutin concepts? And lastly, why is the PIB still in being? Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, yeah.
My question to the former president is on the issue of Bill of Rights. You want to introduce this Bill of Rights, but we have a constitution already. A lot of the stuff you said in that Bill of Rights is already in the constitution. So my question is, if politicians and people with power in Nigeria have already been ignoring the constitution, why would they pay any attention to your Bill of Rights?
Okay, fair enough. Some questions back here.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to, as a Nigerian, thank the president for handing over power, even though I think it's something that all leaders should do. But I was very glad that Mr. President raised the issue of the Same-Sex Marriage Act, particularly in light of this conversation about a Bill of Rights and Nigerian citizens. I think it's very good that we think of having citizenship be something that's acknowledged for all Nigerians. And the Same-Sex Marriage Act, what was interesting about it was that it did not just prohibit same-sex marriage, which would have been understandable, but it also legislated 14 years for private consensual acts between people of the same gender. It also restricted freedom of association. So I want to ask Mr. President if, in the light of this agenda for creating a citizenship which respects all Nigerians, regardless of their sexual orientation, whether he will be working very hard for the repeal of this act, which would be in agreement of everything he said.
Fair enough. We'll just take one more, if that's all right. What we're going to do after Q&A is the president's kindly offered to come and have a cup of tea with us outside, which I think will be a rather nice thing to do. So we won't do question time for too long.
I just pose a simple question to the former president. What one thing does he regret not having done in his term of office that he would, in retrospect, have wished to have done?
One regret. Okay, Mr. President, can I, Your Excellency, if I can invite you up here. Civis Africanus sum. Is that right? And a citizen of Africa. Did you get the questions, Mr. President? So in time to invest in Nigeria, the issue of the country and the PIB, the Bill of Rights versus the Constitution, do we need it? Question on same-sex marriage, and I'll remind you at the end of it, if there's one regret, what's that one regret that you have?
Thank you. I have to thank everybody first for coming to listen to me and for the issues raised. Let me thank Senator Ben Mori-Bruce. He's not just a serving senator now, but he's the senator that represents me in the Nigerian Senate. So for agreeing that he will take up this matter in the National Assembly for them to look into, of course, that's the way they can fine-tune and come up with something that I believe will be good for us. First question, you wanted to know whether this is the best time to invest, and that is coming from the Invest Africa, so I think it's, we expect that. This is the best time to invest in Nigeria. In fact, having been there at the state level, I sat for 8 years as a deputy governor of my state, and later as the governor of my state. And I moved down to the center as the vice president of the country, and later became the president of the country. And now sufficiently exposed to issues of investment, even though I was not in kind of business like, compared to those of you who are here. In Nigeria, most of the times people misunderstand certain challenges. The key thing facing the country now is that in terms of earnings of government, we depend so much on oil. And whenever oil prices go down, it affects the purse of government. But oil contributes only 15% to the Nigerian GDP. The whole oil contributes only 15% to the Nigerian GDP. So Nigeria is a very vibrant country. And there's no better time than even now, because in most cases, it's even during stress periods like this that those who are very good can exploit those situations and make investments that blossom. I remember there was a time we were discussing this when I had one of my planning minister that gave an illustration that a particular company that makes you send somebody to go to a community, big community, and see if they can go and set up a shoe factory there. And when that person got there, nobody was wearing shoes. And he came back and said, look, those people don't know what is called shoes, so we have no business going to that country. A similar company sent another marketing person to go there and said, nobody. So he came back and said, we have a big market there. Everybody there needs at least one pair. And of course, they invested, and of course, the returns were significant. So this issue of the economy now, because if you read from the papers, our GDP dropping and so on, is very, very temporary. This has been happening from time to time because of the way the economy somehow relates to the oil industry. Because even though the GDP, in terms of oil contribution to the GDP, is just about 15%, but since the earnings of workers depends on that, the purchasing powers of the workers also is affected when the earnings are dropping. But let me reassure you, the investing public, that is very, very temporary. It's unfortunate that happens at a time that one government, one party is changing to the other. Otherwise, by now, would have moved over it. I will advise you who are interested in investing in Africa to come, because Nigeria is still the #1 investment destination in the continent. The second person talks about difficulty in Nigeria having, what's the country?
Yeah, it's the, I think the PIB question.
No, not before the PIB.
Yeah. It was your question over there.
Okay, why do we? Of course, as a Nigerian asking that question, a number of people try to blame history. That probably at the time, of course, Nigeria, you know that before Nigeria was colonized by the British, Nigeria exists as independent nationalities and city-states. It's made up of independent nationalities and city-states. And even at the beginning of colonial experience, the whole of the country didn't come under one colonial rule at a time. We had the Northern Protectorate, and we had the Southern Protectorate, and we had the Lagos Colony. These were run by the British differently, with different arrangement. So in 1914, when Lord Lugard amalgamated the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate, the people perhaps still see themselves as different. Of course, there are different languages. We have over 400 different languages or ethnic nationalities. So it's a country that have this kind of problem. Most countries, especially in Africa, that you have this multicultural and multi-religions. You have these sentiments of people feeling, oh, I am being marginalized, I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get. You have the minority problems, you have the... so that is a problem. But most other countries pass through that phase. Even some of the developed countries pass through that phase. But with development, these cleavages will continue to weaken, and surely the country will get over it. The issue of the PIB, of course, we know that the PIB is a key in terms of managing the oil industry. The PIB was there before I took over. It's not Jonathan that initiated the petroleum industry bill. But because the petroleum issues are so sensitive, so sometimes it's over-politicized, we almost got through. Even in the, we are now on the 6th Senate, 8th, we are now on the 8th. We almost got through, even in the 6th. Then all of a sudden, we couldn't. The 7th almost got through. then we couldn't conclude. Now it's like starting de novo. I believe this time the PIB will go through, because that is the only thing that would stabilize. There are too many interests. You have the community interest, the oil producing community's interest. You have the oil companies' interest. You have the indigenous oil companies' interest. So, and you have the politicians also doing their best. So it's a problem, because it's a key. From the oil, we earn over 75% of our revenue. So it's a key industry that everybody's interest is there, but we'll get over it. Then the Bill of Rights, of course, you asked that our Constitution make provision for all the things that are raised. And if we are not obeying the Constitution, what makes you think that the Bill of Rights will solve the matter? No, all our laws are actually based on our Constitution. The Constitution is a grand law, that the basis for which you develop all laws. But when you develop the laws, you make specific provisions. The Constitution does not criminalize anything. There is no part of the Constitution that says you do this, you go to jail, or you do this, you pay a fine. But the Constitution makes provision for good governance. But then the National Assembly will, from under the Constitution, now make specific laws that will make specific provisions that a court of law can look at it, whether you breach or you contravene the law. That is what the bill will really do, because the bill will look at those provisions of the Constitution that already they agree with you, and now make sure that it's crafted in a way that some of the challenges we're having now are taken care of. The issue of same-sex marriage, you asked whether I will advocate for repeal, but that's what I said is, look, as at that time, it was in the first place, it was a private member bill. It was not a bill from the executive, but it's a bill that the whole 100% of the National Assembly supports, both House of Rep and the Senate. It's a bill that the two major religions in Nigeria, both Islam and Christian, support. And when the bill was passed by the National Assembly, people were looking at whether the president will sign it or not. And I used to tell people that sometimes in the Nigerian process of lawmaking, if two-thirds of the National Assembly take a decision, and assuming the president refuses to sign, after 30 days, they will raise it on the floor of the National Assembly and vote again. And if they get to third, automatically it becomes a law, whether the president signs it or not. So for the same-sex marriage, it was very obvious that even if a president doesn't sign it, it's like saying, no, my name should not be associated with it, but the law will go through. So the best thing is for you to associate with it and see how you can manage it. Under that circumstance, no president would have refused assent to that bill because it will be futile. You are not solving any problem. But what we are saying is that all over the world, not just in Nigeria, the issue of sexual orientation is evolving. So many people begin to think differently. Some years back, you couldn't even raise the issue of what we talk about now, we call it gay. Some years back, they would describe it as sodomy and just send you to jail. So the issue of sexual orientation is evolving, both developing and developed societies. Even in the most developed societies, there are different people who have different thinking about it. But people are beginning to change over the period. And what I'm advocating is that over time, I cannot say they should go back now. That bill was signed just about 2.5 years back. There will be no change now. But over time, the thinking of people, what I'm saying is that it's not as if it has been cast in stone that there will be no review. No. Over time, it will be visited by the National Assembly based on the thinking of people. Then, of course...
one regret.
Well, it's a question people always ask. For anybody who have the privilege of being a governor of a state or a president of a country, especially a country as big as Nigeria, they will always ask, you will do your best. One day, when I was there, I did my best to cover so many grounds. I cannot say I have any particular regrets. Maybe there are some areas that there was no time, or because of circumstances, I didn't achieve what I really would have loved to achieve. But there's nothing I could say if I was there. I could have done this, and I didn't do it. I attempted to do all what I believe as a leader should be done. Thank you.
Excellency. Will you come and have a cup of tea with the audience? Yeah. So the audience would like to ask His Excellency to come and have a cup of tea, but I thought the regret was going to be not winning the football World Cup.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll go and have a tea now. And thank you, Bloomberg.